Let's get straight into building my own custom keyboard. Just in case you don't know what a custom keyboard is, I will explain it real quick. What you're currently watching is my old keyboard. Like most keyboards, it arrived fully assembled and you can just plug it into your computer and use it as is. With custom keyboards, on the other hand, you can buy each individual part separately, namely the case, the switches, as well as the keycaps. So why would you buy each part individually instead of just ordering a complete keyboard which just works? For one, of course, because building stuff is fun. Also, there are plenty of options to choose from when it comes to the different parts a keyboard is made out of. A plastic case might sound and feel completely different to an aluminum case, for example. You can basically tailor your keyboard exactly to your liking, and since this fits well with my other videos, I thought this would make a great project for my channel. I actually was interested in building a keyboard for quite some time, but I was always deterred by the high cost and also because there wasn't really any case that would fulfill all the features that I was looking for. But when Meletrix announced the Zoom 98, I was immediately hooked. At around €200, it is still absurdly expensive in my opinion, since after all it's just an enormous hunk of aluminum, but it also checked all the boxes. It's a almost full-sized keyboard with a numpad, it supports the German ISO keyboard layout which I am using, and it also has a bunch of smaller features like Bluetooth connectivity amongst other features. After buying the keyboard in the group buy, I had to wait for quite some time, but after about 5 months the keyboard finally arrived at my doorstep and I could start the build. The keyboard came with a bunch of goodies that I personally don't have any use for, but I guess it is nice to have. Also, the box art was a little strange, but I'll try not to question that. When I was unpacking everything, I was a little bit overwhelmed by the sheer amount of stuff that comes with the keyboard. There's a bunch of different foam layers, a bunch of bags and boxes with all sorts of parts in them, and also some plates and PCBs. At this moment I was doubting a bit that I would just throw this keyboard together first try, but thankfully a detailed building guide with color pictures and English instructions was also included. To be honest, I was quite surprised when I got the case out of its box and saw it with my own eyes for the first time. For one, it is super heavy. I know this was to be expected for a piece of metal this size, but I still wouldn't have expected this much heft. Also, the surface finish as well as the tolerances leave nothing to be desired really. The building process starts by putting together the PCB. Basically, you have to layer up different sheets of foam on top of one another. After laying down the first layer, you attach it with some switches on each corner. Up next are the so-called stabilizers. They are little brackets which are supposed to make larger keycaps like the spacebar pressed down evenly without wobbling from left to right. According to the building instructions, you're supposed to disassemble them and put grease on them, but I'm not sure whether that is actually necessary since they seem to be pre-lubed from what I could tell. But I'm not here to ask any questions, and so I put myself through the tedious pain of lubing every stabilizer individually. Supposedly, some people actually take it a step further by lubing each and every switch, but that's definitively not for me. Once the stabilizers are installed, you can remove the switches installed earlier and sandwich a sheet of foam with cutouts for the keys between the PCB and a plastic plate. This plate will later hold on to the switches and keep them into place. Next, these silicone dampers have to be installed all around the keyboard plate. I think they are supposed to dampen the plate when it's sandwiched between the top and bottom of the case later on. But at this point, I'm not really sure what all the different sorts of foam and dampers are for. After turning the PCB around, another sheet of foam is installed on the backside of the PCB, and with that done, the PCB is ready for now and work on the case can get started. First of all, the back plate has to be removed. After unscrewing 8 screws, the back of the keyboard comes right off and this wide weight can be installed. It looks kinda nice, but I'm not sure why you would install a plate at the bottom of the keyboard where you'll never really see it. Anyways, it is held in by 6 screws from the inside of the keyboard, and once those were tightened, the batteries can be installed by gluing them into 2 cutouts with some double-sided tape. Next, you have to install the PCB into the case, as well as plug in the battery, the USB plug and some more foam. This was quite tedious and I don't have any footage of this. So we'll just skip to combining the bottom and the top of the case together with the PCB. Because this is my first keyboard build, I wasn't really sure whether I had done everything correctly, but I just went with it and hoped for the best. With the 8 screws installed, the keyboard case is done and ready for the switches to be installed. Since this keyboard is hot swap, there is no soldering required when installing the switches. This basically means that the switches can just be plugged in like Lego pieces. I opted for Gateron Milky Yellow switches, since the internet seems to agree on those switches being a good option for an okay price. Now there are many different kinds of switches, but I don't want to get into that topic, since that would stretch out the video more than I would like to. With the switches installed, the last thing left were the keycaps. Finding a keycap set with the German ISO layout that I like took me quite some time. There are a few options, but most of them either look pretty basic or they are way too expensive, costing 150 euro and more. In the end, I chose the Monaco Keys disconnected light keycap set. At 85 euro, these are still quite expensive, and I still can't really believe that I spent this amount of money on a few pieces of plastic. But there wasn't really any good alternative that I liked, and so this is what I ended up with. To be fair, the quality of the keycaps is nice. They just look perfect and feel much better than the ones on my cheap old keyboard. Also, with the alternative purple keycaps, you do get some options to play around with. And with the keycaps installed, the keyboard was finally ready for a test drive. I didn't really know what to expect, but I definitively was surprised by how nice this keyboard feels. Now I know that the sound of the keyboard is part of why people build custom keyboards, but for me it was actually the haptics of the typing that made it worth it. While my old keyboard just felt rattly and scratchy, the Zoom 98 just felt super smooth and consistent with each button press. This is something that is hard to get across on video, and I guess you'd have to experience it yourself in order to really understand it. Just as with anything though, it still isn't perfect. For one, of course, the price for one of these builds is absurd, but you don't have to go as far as I did, as there are many cheaper alternatives like Keychron, for example. Also, the setup process with the program VIA is a bit tedious if you have no idea what you're doing like I was. For example, the smaller greater key has to be set up as the nubs key in VIA if you want to use it normally. That one took me some time to figure out, but luckily the internet is full of great advice and tutorials when it comes to these kind of things. Another thing was that the Bluetooth connection was pretty laggy sometimes, and other times it wouldn't connect to my PC at all. Also, since the screen that comes with the keyboard didn't really have any function for me, I decided to swap it for the knob module that I had ordered. So, is building your own keyboard worth it? I personally had a lot of fun when I was building this keyboard. From picking out the different parts to waiting patiently for my orders to arrive and to put everything together in the end, the whole process was quite rewarding for me. Especially since the end product is something really nice that I use almost every day. If you like building stuff and are having to do with computers a lot at work or privately, I think building your own keyboard is a great way to personalize your setup. When it comes to the cost of the keyboard, you can definitively get away a lot cheaper than I did, especially if you're not too picky about your case and keycaps. But even for cheap custom keyboards, you should expect to pay around 100 euro. I hope I could show you the hobby of custom keyboards from the perspective of a beginner and to give you some inspiration on your next project. This is something I wanted to do for quite some time, and I'm happy that I finally got around to it. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.